to the Starry-Eyed Podcast. My name is Brendan.
And I'm Jen. On this show, we chat about all things Williams syndrome.
The ups and downs and what it's like living with
and being a parent to someone with
Williams syndrome.
We're excited to share our community with you. Thanks for being here.
The New Zealand Williams syndrome website has a whole page, and there never was obviously a Maori term for Williams syndrome.
Yeah.
Until this family was diagnosed, and this Maori family, in collaboration between Maori linguist Carrie Opai. Oh, I'm sure I'm butchering that, and Williams syndrome, the association. And they created the term. How did he pronounce it? Manaakiao?
Something like that.
Manaakiao. I'll insert a little snippet of him saying it there.
So Manaakiao means Williams syndrome in Te Reo Māori.
Or Manaakai is to support, take care of, give hospitality to, protect, look out for, show respect, generosity, and care for others. And Ao is the world, the globe of the earth. So Manaakiao is world embracer of the world. And so they chose to focus on that positive trait of people with Williams syndrome.
Yep.
And that is how that word came into being. And Tangata Manaakiao is a Williams syndrome person. Tamaiti Manaakiao is a Williams syndrome child, is a child with Williams syndrome. So it's awesome.
That's so cool.
We could find that family and bring them on the show.
Yeah, Jamie and Puki Timoti. Or Puke.
If you're listening to this, we'd like to have you on.
Yeah. And if you're not totally offended and hate me for using your names and your beautiful language.
And we're like, wait a minute, what is that? It's only
maybe they'll come. Maybe they'll go. Oh, we got to go on just to correct this.
Let's help these poor.
This dumb American guy.
Happy holidays to everybody.
Yes.
Happy holidays. I hope everyone has a wonderful, wonderful holiday season. Stay safe out there. Don't travel in any
horrid conditions.
Yeah, don't go crashing into snowbanks unless that's something that you're doing as part of some sort of winter wonderland adventure. All right.
Hello, Henry. How are you?
Yeah, good. How are you?
I'm doing great. So for those who may not know who you are, why don't you introduce yourself and tell everyone a little bit about yourself.
So, hello everybody. My name is Henry. I was at the Williams Syndrome Convention this year. You might have seen me around. I'm from New Zealand. I'm 22, almost 23 years old.
Tell us where you live in New Zealand.
So I live close to Auckland, which is like a big city, you could say. It's a big city.
It's a big city. What's the time difference? So right now we're recording this and it's 2 p.m. in the afternoon here.
It's 10 a.m. right here.
Okay, so you're the next day. Today is Friday for you? Okay. Ooh, this is exciting. I think you're our farthest reaching international guest.
Yeah, Henry from the future.
That's good.
You did. Henry from the future. Oh my gosh, that's so true. Yep. Okay, Henry. Well, I didn't meet you at convention, and I don't know why. That's a real miss on my part because I love convention. They're so fun. Was this your first convention?
No, this was my third convention.
Third convention. Okay, so you came, which one first? Baltimore?
So do you remember where Disneyland is?
Yes.
So I was at both of those conventions where Disneyland was, and I was with the others.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. How was this convention for you then in Arizona? was a little hot, probably.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
You're,
it's pretty good. It was fun.
it was fun. You had fun. So you're 22, almost 23.
Yeah.
Well, tell us about your like journey with Williams syndrome. Like, how old were you when you were diagnosed? And
I think I was 1 or something when I got diagnosed, like a baby, I think. So
okay,
I've had it my whole entire life. And yeah,
how did that affect you in like school and like in the community?
school and college, you could say I was a little bit of a troubled kid just because I hanged out with the wrong crowd, and then I
Oh,
got bullied. I got bullied as well because of my
Yeah.
Williams syndrome. And at age 14, I got diagnosed with anxiety. I've had it since the age of 14.
Mm.
Anxiety, but Williams syndrome, I've had it for 22 years.
oh
Yeah.
yeah. It's interesting that you say that you were diagnosed with anxiety or something more formal at 14. My daughter, Stella, she has Williams syndrome. She's also 14, and she also has very high anxiety right now.
Mm.
Yeah, do you have any tips for that? How do you get that under control?
Just breathe. I just chat to someone about it as well. Like I try and get reassurance. I know that I'm doing it right, or if I'm not, then they tell me.
Yeah.
Did you said you went to
Yeah.
college in New Zealand as well?
Yeah.
And what did that look like? So for a lot of us who live in the United States, like we don't even know what the presence is like of people with disabilities or Williams syndrome in other countries. Like tell us about that.
So the college. So from year 1 to year 8, I think, or something, and then year 9 to year 13 in New Zealand. Yeah, it's quite different to America.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Did you go to college for something in particular?
just not really.
Did you just have fun?
Yeah, I've had fun.
You know, a lot of people here go to college just to have fun too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
22, do you live at home still or do you live on your
Yes.
own? Okay, you live at home still. Yeah, I think that's pretty
Yeah.
common. What do you like to do for fun?
Basketball, make TikToks. I've got 47.8K followers now. Yeah, it's been growing heaps.
On TikTok?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna find you on TikTok. What are you posting about?
So I'm basically an advocate for New Zealand's Williams Syndrome Association because I feel like we need to have our opinions like yous do.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like have our right, say what we want to say, do what we want to do, or have to do, you know?
Yeah, because is that not normal in New Zealand? Like, how are people with disabilities like integrated into the community?
We get treated very differently. Like, I feel for me, everyone just bullied me because I was different.
Mhm.
Like, I'm normal as you can tell that I'm normal.
Yeah.
I don't like, you know.
Yeah.
But I feel like the whole disability community maybe needs to stand up a bit more for ourselves because we've had a few things taken away from us. I
Yeah.
guess like our funding and things. So yeah.
Yeah. What are some of the things that make you anxious?
Work makes me stressed just
Yeah.
because I don't know who's there, and
Yeah.
I don't know why it just does.
Yeah.
I think work can be stressful for a lot of people. Where do you work?
I work at a McDonald's company, but I'm thinking of maybe leaving to
Mm.
focus on my own clothing brand that I've got in New Zealand that I've started.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah, it's really cool. I've seen some of his stuff and it's awesome.
so you're designing clothes?
Yeah, I've got my own merch brand already out. So yeah, it's been going good.
Okay. And what's your merch brand about?
So it's about myself. So it's called Lil Henry merch. So my name's Lil Henry on TikTok. So
Okay, Lil Henry.
yeah, so it's named after me. And to everyone on that's gonna watch this, if you don't know, I've just been on TV like a few months back. I was on a TV show called Forgo Flatting.
Like a TV, what kind of TV show?
So for people with different disabilities. So
Are
we
you-
went flatting together. We've had a whole flatting experience. We stayed 6 weeks away from our own home.
So flatting is like you lived in a house.
Right.
Yeah,
Yep.
Okay.
correct.
I don't know if you know this, Henry, but did you know that Brendan is also a reality TV star?
Yeah,
Really?
we've talked a little bit about it, that I worked for MTV in the past, and maybe we didn't get to that yet, but yeah, I did.
No, we didn't.
Well, then I did work for MTV for about a year, and on a show called How's Your News, and it was a show about a group of individuals with disabilities that traveled the country as a news group and a band. So we got to interview celebrities. We went to
That's so cool, though. That's
yeah,
crazy.
it was definitely a really interesting time in my life, you know. It was cool because when we weren't filming, I was going to school, and then I would, people would recognize me and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, it was very interesting. We got to interview celebrities. We went to, the Kentucky Derby. We went to the South by Southwest Music Festival in Austin, Texas. We got to play there.
That's cool.
We got to play at the Bowery Ballroom in New York City. We filmed in Texas, Louisiana, New York, California, and Las Vegas, and Washington, and maybe a few other places. I think it was quite a long time ago, so I don't have all the things remembered, but
Did you live like when you were on the show? Did you like live with these castmates?
No, no, it was we would travel back and forth because I was going to night school and I was taking full-time classes at the time. So
Oh,
I would 6, 7 classes in 2 days, all music classes. And so they were very understanding and they would, let me travel and do my thing. And then when I would come back, I would do that. It was
yeah.
fun.
Well, what I will tell you guys a little secret about me. There's so many secrets, but when I was younger, in my 20s, I was like, I want to be on the real world. So I went to like a casting, and it's like the same kind of thing, Henry, like where they get they get different people together, and you live in a house. And I very quickly realized that they were looking for like extreme personalities, people who might like want to start stuff, right? Like fights and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And that wasn't like what direction I was going, so I didn't get picked.
The others that I flirted with didn't have Williams syndrome. They
Okay.
had different disabilities. And me and
Yeah.
this other guy in particular, I'm not going to say his name
We'll know who he
I
is when we watch the show.
Yeah.
yeah, until you watch the show. Me and him clashed heads a bit. We were both trying to be the dominant person of the flat, you could say.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we'll have to like tune in to see who won. Who won.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lil Henry. How did this name Lil Henry come about?
So, Brandon, do you realize that I'm short?
Are you sure?
Of course, you're sure that's why your name is Little Henry. I remember
I'm short.
he's about like I'm 5 foot, what, like 5'8", 5'9" on a good hair day, and he's like just about like here.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
People think I'm tall in real life, but when I show, they're like, "Oh nah, he's not tall." What was I thinking?
Yeah.
That's okay. That's the nice thing about being in the Williams syndrome community is there's a lot of short people.
Yeah.
You're not the only one.
Yep. Shout out to all the
Henry.
shorties.
Yeah,
Woo!
including my own, Bella, and she's a little shorty. I keep hoping she'll be like 5 feet, but I don't know if she's gonna get there. So how did this you're like, I'm gonna be Lil Henry? How did that then start into TikToks?
So I'd started TikTok 3 years ago, and I wanted to share the other side of the world of Williams syndrome, like our community, because
Yeah.
our community's on Facebook, Instagram, but now I've put it out there on TikTok so that everyone can see what my life is like. I don't only do it about me. It's about everyone in the community.
What's your favorite video that you've posted?
Me being on the TV show, so yeah.
So you could post that. So if we want to know about the show, we can go like see your TikToks. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exciting. It's so interesting how the awareness piece works, right? Like I do also, although I'm not anywhere near your level, Henry, of people, followers, but I started when my daughter was diagnosed with Williams syndrome, putting stuff on social media as well, because I was like, gosh, there's like when my daughter was diagnosed, it was like, here's all this bad stuff that we're going to tell you about Williams syndrome and all the things that she's never going to do. And I was like, well, but she's pretty cool, actually. Yeah. And there's like so many cool people in this community.
That's
and
what they said to me. That's what they said to my parents, the same. He's not going to make it. Look at me now. I'm 22. So they're doctors.
Yeah, exactly. And it is interesting to see what resonates with people. Again, my following, I only have like 1,000 followers, so much different than you. But the video that most people see is of Stella swinging, and she loves to go outside and she swings and she sings, and she always sings the Star Spangled Banner, so it's always the same song over and over again, and it's like a perfect representation of her. Like, there's definitely some challenges that come along with having a disability, but there's like a lot of awesome stuff too. So I hope that's what you're sharing. Yeah, you're sharing that too.
I share my life. Like, I share what I do and things. People like it a lot.
That's cool. Yeah, like where are you hoping to go? Like, is your goal to be an actor or to just be like a public personality?
You could say public personality, like, yeah.
Yeah. Are you pretty well known in your community?
Yeah. I've made Ngatea famous, the whole Ngatea.
You said it's a pretty big town, right?
It's a small. So Auckland is the big town. Ngatea the small rural town. So we've gotten. You could say it's like one of them countryside things that you would see in America. You know what I'm saying? Where it's just got a little bit of little shops.
Yeah.
Where it's got a little bit of shops. I think we got one shop. One kebab shop, one pub.
One pub in your whole town?
Yeah.
Okay, you are a small town. That's small. I'm curious, like, know how did you start deciding that you wanted to get involved with like Williams syndrome internationally? Like, how did you start deciding you wanted to come to Williams syndrome conventions here in the U.S.?
Because I've got Williams syndrome myself, and I thought it would be nice for other people in the American community to see, oh, we've got brothers and sisters from, let's just say, UK, Japan, China, Italy, France, wherever, just for them to realize that there's more than just one country with it. Like, it's a whole international thing.
Yeah. I mean, and it is cool to see that. It's really unique. Are there a lot of people with Williams syndrome, like in your area, in your community? I actually know one that lives in New Zealand, but he's a little baby. Do you have aspirations to like leave New Zealand, or do you like living there?
I want to come to stay in America just so I can go to the conventions, catch up with everybody, don't have to wait 12 hours to go on a blooming plane and just sit there and be a good boy.
Yeah. Do you fly by yourself, or do you fly with like somebody?
I fly with my mum and dad.
Your mom and dad. Yeah, because that's a long way.
Yeah. But one day I would love for me to just go and then just come back and be like, ooh.
Yeah, I always say that it would be really fun to like have like a Williams syndrome exchange program where like I send some to Stella's.
That's what I'm saying.
And vice versa, right? Like, so if you ever want to come to, I live in Colorado, so if you ever want to come to Colorado, it's cold here. You're always welcome. You have a place to stay.
Thank you so much.
Tell us, okay, I'm going to get this wrong. New Zealand WSA integrates is it Maori culture?
Yeah, Maori culture. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. I mean, I know what it is, but tell people who don't.
So Maori culture, the tradition in New Zealand where we do hakas like say for a tangi, someone that passed away, to welcome people onto the marae, to welcome guests to colleges or schools, or when people are leaving and stuff. Yeah. So it's kind of like a acknowledgement.
I think it's like a cultural thing, right? Indigenous to
Yeah,
New
it is a culture.
That's what I thought. Yeah, because a lot of them have like the marking, right? Like the facial.
Right.
Yeah.
Tattoo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's super cool. And like you said, like an important part of like their heritage. And so how does the WSA there integrate that? Because that is culturally a very important part
Because we've got Māori people that are part of our community. So
we do? That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Amazing.
so I know a few of them because I've been to the camps and they've been there. They're a really cool group of people. They're a cool bunch. They're chillax. They like to do what we like to do. So yeah.
As we wrap up our time here, Henry, what else do you want to tell the listeners of the podcast about you or your Williams syndrome experience or living in New Zealand?
If you want to experience New Zealand culture, come to New Zealand. This is where you guys need to be right now instead of cold America.
Right? Summertime where you are.
Yeah. What's the Maori word for Williams syndrome?
Manaakiao. So Manaakiao means Williams syndrome in Te Reo Māori.
That's so awesome. I love that. Yeah. And how can people find you if they want to watch your TikToks?
So I'm also on Facebook. So mine's Henry Stillwell on Facebook. Instagram is Little Henry 3.0, so I'm on Instagram as well.
Little Henry 3.0, okay.
On YouTube, Little Henry 3.0. On TikTok, Little Henry 3.0. So
Oh, well, we have a celebrity in our midst. That's pretty cool. Well, I'm excited to hear more about the launch of your show and to watch your TikToks. I'm going to follow you right now. Henry, I love what you're doing. I mean, like we've talked about it before, like the experiences and the lived experience, right? And the perspective of people with Williams syndrome is so important. And the fact that you're doing that and having success is like just what we want to see.
Yep.
yeah.
And we end with hearts and croutons.
Mm-hmm.
My new update is not working.
So, Paula, how are you?
Good morning. I'm doing well, and you?
Doing well. Doing well.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's great to have you on here.
Very excited.
So, for those who don't know who you are, why don't you introduce yourself and tell everyone a little bit about yourself and what you do for the WSA.
Of course. My name is Paola Martínez. I am originally from Puerto Rico. We live in Miami. I have an 8-year-old son that is diagnosed with Williams syndrome. His name is Enrique, and he has a younger brother called Leo. And yeah, we live in Miami, and our first time going to the convention was Chicago. So since 2022, I have, just gone head first, all that has anything to do with the Williams Syndrome Association, and just being from Puerto Rico and having that Hispanic side. I just want the Williams syndrome community in Latin America, to be connected as much as we can, and share the resources and just advocacy. So
were you in Puerto Rico when your son got diagnosed, or you were in Miami?
No. Yeah, I moved to Miami when I was in high school. Yeah,
Okay.
I had Enrique. Yeah,
You've been there a while. Yeah, tell us about your diagnosis journey.
of course. Well, it's a diagnosis journey.
Okay.
It all started, me and my husband. I was a young mom. I am a young mom. I became pregnant with Enrique when I was 22. pretty early on in our relationship. So, everything was a little bit spicier than usual
Yeah.
since the beginning. And then, everything with the pregnancy, everything went very, very well. Once he was born, we did notice, he had a heart murmur, and around like 2 months, he started, they diagnosed him with a failure to thrive. So he wasn't growing as much. He wasn't gaining as much weight, but he was like, in a constant in his own curve.
Yeah.
So a little fast forward, like 4 months later, we see a new cardiologist, and he was like, okay, well, with the developmental milestones he's not reaching, and with the new supravalvular aortic stenosis diagnosis that we received, and some facial features, I think you might need to see a geneticist just to make sure that everything is. He said geneticist, and I'm like, I don't even know what that is, and I'm like,
Yeah.
what is that? And he's like, well, it's, the genes, and we just want to see if he has a deletion. And I'm like, I went to school, I studied psychology, and the most that we talked about was Down syndrome or, duplications. I had never heard of a deletion. And then, I once like they just said Williams syndrome. And as a mom, you obviously go on Google, and I remember texting my husband like right then and there. I couldn't call him because I was in the middle of the appointment, and I was like, Kiki, that's my husband. Kiki, Enrique has Williams syndrome. He's like, what? Paola, what is that? Yeah, you just went for a follow-up appointment. What are you talking about? And I'm like, they're telling us that we have to go to a geneticist. So he has it. He has it. He definitely has it. Thank goodness my uncle, at the time he was working at the Children's Hospital, and thank goodness for connections, because genetic appointments can take 9 months. They gave me an appointment. This was in April, if I'm not mistaken, and the next available appointment was in December. Imagine everything that you can accomplish in 6 months, until waiting for an appointment, and then after that it's the test, and then after that it's waiting for the results. So fast forward, thank goodness we got an appointment 2 weeks after the appointment. It was like a diagnosis appointment, because it was, okay, we're gonna test for this and this, and I do believe that you should, I'm gonna give you all the referrals that you are probably gonna need, so I would just get on it. And I was like, okay, my son is officially diagnosed now, so let's get on it. Ophthalmologist, nephrologist, endocrinologist, everybody. Fast forward to that, in the middle of taking the blood test and having like the actual diagnosis, we went to the ophthalmologist. And the first thing that man told me was like, oh my goodness, this is my first Williams syndrome patient in a while. My mom was with me in that appointment, and she just looked at me. I just started crying. Because one thing is like knowing it's a possibility, and then another, a professional that has the knowledge of Williams syndrome, just telling you flat out, he's officially diagnosed. And it was really shocking. But then again, 2 weeks later, official diagnosis comes, and it's like, okay, let's just do it. Enrique was in therapy.
Like when you went to the ophthalmologist, you were like, were doing the testing, but you hadn't had the official confirmation. Yeah.
But it was like a confirmation after a confirmation after a confirmation. It was Enrique had Williams syndrome. So yeah, fast forward a little bit more. He was 9 months, and he was already in feeding therapy, speech therapy, occupational therapy, and physical therapy. He spent 2 years and a half in feeding therapy, which to me was just, seeing your son vomit everything that you give him is just for me, the hardest part of being a mother is just not seeing your son not eat and
Mhm.
feeding him and not holding it in. So it was something that, that you see it comes so easy to everybody. And
Yeah.
it's like how not fair, but that's where the advocacy comes. Like this is my son's normal, situation. How can I make everybody understand that it's okay if he vomits? Like we have to just try again, and it's a lot. But if we have the community, that's where I'm trying to get to. Once you have your community in place, everything just gets easier because it not easier, but less stressful, less hard, less lonely.
Yeah. How old was Enrique when he was diagnosed?
Well, since the first one, we suspected it, let's say, since he was 4 months old, but officially diagnosed 8 months.
Okay. So it was real early on, and
Yeah.
that's so good. My daughter Stella, who's 14, was diagnosed at 5, and it was a very sudden thing where, similar to you, somebody said, I think she has something called Williams syndrome, basically. And I went into the car and I Googled it, and I was like, yes, this is like
Yeah.
totally. So I already knew by the time we got the official diagnosis that
Yeah.
she had it. I could just, all the things that you see in terms of like markers for Williams syndrome. It was like they all seem like separate and not related. But then when you see them under like one diagnosis, you're like, yes, these all weirdly come together.
Yeah.
But I always wish that we had been diagnosed sooner, because I think those interventions are so stinking helpful. And so the earlier anybody gets those, the better long term. And I think that you're right, that the community is important. And, like the more, at least for us, the more people know Stella and they know some of the manifestations of Williams syndrome that come along with knowing Stella, the more normalized it is. And it's not so awkward. So you find out Enrique has Williams syndrome. You like thrust yourself into therapies. When did you get involved with the WSA?
It wasn't until, the idea was to 2020 go to Phoenix. But then again, we all know what happened in 2020.
Yeah.
Right.
So in 2020, that's when, we obviously couldn't travel. So the WSA created the virtual walks. So that's when we started getting involved. I felt more comfortable. Well, me and my husband felt more comfortable, like knowing more about Williams syndrome, knowing where, just because it's a spectrum. You don't know where he's gonna have, his highs or his lows. You don't know where he's gonna need more help, in which areas he's gonna struggle with, or even the medical side, because he can have hypercalcemia, but then after 2 years old, thank goodness it was resolved. But before that, he didn't have strabismus, and 2 years ago he was diagnosed with strabismus and autism, and a bunch of diagnoses, that it's not only Williams syndrome. It's like a constant learning, situation where you never know exactly what's going on, because when something is resolved, something else pops up. But it wasn't until 2022 that we went to Chicago.
And that was your first
Yes, that
life-changing.
Oh my goodness. It was just, and I'm speaking for my husband because he would say exactly the same thing. We went the first day, like to the registration and then to the party, and it was just everybody hugging everybody. The parents were like, just you can sense that everybody is just relaxed. Everybody is there's no taboo. There's no, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that, I'm sorry that my kid is just like hugging you right now. That there was no, I'm sorry. It was just, it's us. It was just beautiful. And I just feel like I speak for the community. It's just, we all feel so connected. And how do you not want everybody to feel this way, that knows your child, or that deals with your child? how do you not want them to understand everything that they go through and all of the anxieties and the all the struggles that you can actually help them. You just have to be more conscious and just hold back and breathe and relax and just, yeah. The WSA has been just a huge blessing in our lives. And yeah, my goal is just to hopefully bring as many family, friends, and, diagnosed people to the convention. I just want everybody to feel what we feel when we're all together.
Mhm.
And that is just, even the connections and just the fact that I can now grab my phone and call a mom. And it's just not complaining, but it's like this and this is happening and the IEP and this and that. It's like I can't have those conversations. I mean, I can, but to a certain extent, I can have them with my friends with typical children.
Mhm.
Uh, and I know that they mean well. Obviously, they want the best for me and my son, but there's to a certain extent they're gonna get it. And it's not a it's not I don't it's
Yeah.
I
just a
mean, I get it.
beautiful thing.
I get
It's
it.
a
I get it.
beautiful thing
All of
that
yes,
right?
It
It's a
is.
It's
real
just
vibe.
a beautiful thing that I can just grab my phone and I know that, my friend his son is 13 years old, but you know what? My son is 8. So from 8 to 13, what's going on? What am I going what are we getting into? Like 8 years old. These like emotions and these things, everything is like, and now you have someone to call
Yes.
because you just maybe like a Facebook post or something. I would never give my phone number to a random person, but if I know that they have a Williams syndrome child, I'm like, I'll give you my address. Come here. I want to meet you. I think I
Right.
want to talk.
Yeah. I it is so true. We went to our first Williams syndrome convention like within months of it's just the way that it aligned that Stella was diagnosed, and then she was officially diagnosed in January, and in July there was a Williams syndrome conference in Columbus, and so we went. And you're right, like it is amazing the connections, and it is nice to have connections of people that have went before you, right? So you have those parents that are like, yes, I remember when my kid was 8 and here's all the things we struggled with. I always, and people who have met me are like, whenever we get into like that age range of like, maybe puberty, like precocious puberty, I always am like, I will tell you guys, one time I went to a Williams syndrome the first time I went to the Williams syndrome conference, one of the very first sessions we sat in on was a conversation about puberty, and Stella was 5 at the time. And I'm like, how is this relevant to me now? But like all these years later, I'm like, I remember in that meeting that I said I shouldn't go to because I wasn't ready for it. Here were all these tips, right? And so it is a lot to take in, but there are a lot of good jewels of information that you can glean from the community. Have you guys went to camp yet?
No, we haven't.
Girl.
We haven't. I know.
The best.
I think next year is the year that next year is the year.
I personally am like, just imagine how awesome a convention is, but like imagine it in a way more intimate space with like there's no the overwhelm isn't there of all the people and all the stuff and all the classes. It's just much more intimate, much more like calm, but you still get like all those connections, and your kids have experienced so much growth, and those truly become lifelong friends. So you should definitely do camp. How did you then dial this into advocacy work? Because I want to make sure that we talk about that, and remind me what your website is. Is it how do we say it?
Pavea.
Pavea.
Yes.
I'm not from Miami.
But that's my business. And then for the advocacy, again, going back to the WSA, after Chicago, during Chicago, I had the absolute blessing, privilege, just the honor of meeting Dr. Angela Becerra, and she's the one that is in Louisville with Dr. Mervis's lab.
Yeah.
And she invited me. She's originally from Colombia, so that Hispanic side, that Hispanic connection got us going. And she just opened, the I believe the most important door for me for my next step into the advocacy, which
Mhm.
was, she invited us to the University of Louisville for the test for the
Study.
for the study, I'm sorry. And then it wasn't until the study that I was I have to do something with this information. I learned too much in those 2 days with Dr. Mervis and Dr. Becerra that I was like, everybody needs to know about this. They gave me all the pointers for IEP. They gave me all the pointers on what to do with OT and speech therapy. They gave me so many other resources. They pointed even to other specialists that they knew in the Miami area or Florida, and it was just the connections just kept on coming just because of the Williams syndrome association. And when they do the study, they give you like an idea of the IQ,
Mhm.
and just because of that, I think Enrique is doing, I don't think he is doing incredibly so much better because of the last 2 years that we've been seeing Dr. Mervis and Dr. Angela. That Enrique, he's managed to be in a general ed classroom. He does have a para, but he's I don't care about the grades, but the kid is getting A's and B's, and it's all because of their pointers and their knowledge and their expertise that Enrique is thriving so much in school. And I mean, you can see it in my face and you can hear it in my voice. They have been just our biggest blessing that has come out of the. I mean, other than community, of course, that has to be the top.
Yeah. No, they're
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know, I know that when my daughter was diagnosed, it was like right away, just the information that was thrust at me from like the community at large, it was all negative, right? Like, here's all the things that she won't do, and here's all the things that you won't do as a family, and here's all the mom guilt that you're going to feel because of all these things that you and your kid can't do. And here's all the things that she won't be able to do in the community. And here's all the things that the community won't be able to do for her. And I was just like, what? WTF? I was like,
Oh yeah.
no. I was like, no, this is not, I, I can't allow this. And I was like, I guess like right away, I was like, I don't believe these things to be true.
Right.
And I think that like her journey is, what we, as much as we put into it, as, some of the outcomes that we know are just part of having Williams syndrome. And so that really spurred my advocacy very early on, was like, nope, like I'm an Enneagram 3. I was like, we do not fail. We don't fail. We may make a lot of mistakes and we may like stumble, but we are not failing. And so that's just my personal drive. That's like who I am as a person. And so then we'll see how it goes later. Maybe that'll come out in therapy, but then I just thrust that upon Stella. And it just felt very intuitive. Like, I don't think it wasn't like there was a moment where I was like, do I advocate for her or do I not? I was just like, this is what's happening. This is our new normal. How was it for you? How did you make that? Was it like a realization?
For the advocacy, it had to come down to the last school that he was in.
Okay.
It wasn't the best.
Yeah.
And it has a lot of, details in between, because Enrique, when he was diagnosed with autism, we thank goodness, very, very fast, we had an ABA giving him therapy. So by extent, he had an RBT going 40 hours, 30 hours? 30 hours to school each week. So he had a one-to-one with an RBT. So given that the RBT was with him, that's the reason that I found out that he wasn't getting the adequate amount of therapies that his IEP had, stipulated.
Oh, okay.
And
Oh, yeah.
yeah, And then I started, reaching out to the school, and the school, out of 5 emails that I sent, they would answer only one and very vague. So you can imagine where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
Oh,
Um,
Your mama
long
bear
st-
starts like coming out and
oh
getting
yeah.
stronger. Yeah.
The mama bear mixed with a little Puerto Rican, which is like a little,
oh, that's a
touch.
spicy bear. That's a real spicy bear right there.
And then, I go my first time to see Dr. Angela, I mean to Louisville, and then
Yeah.
they're like, Paola, this IEP, what did you sign? I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean? What did I sign? He has 2 speech, 2 OT, 2 physical, he has this, he says that. Paola, but the goals. And I'm like, what do you mean the goals? Those are beautiful goals. That's a goal for a typical kindergarten student. It's not a goal for your child. And it's like, okay, so after Louisville, I had the IEP meeting. It turned out to be a 4-hour IEP meeting,
oh,
tears. It was just
Yes.
a lot.
Mhm.
Advocacy, that's where it started.
And that's where you,
Uh,
yeah. And then you were like top by minute. I think so many people can relate to that. Because that is usually what happens is that there's some sort of like bad experience or miscommunication a lot of times with the school, and then you find yourself in this point of advocacy. So when did you start Pabea? Did you start it like on the heels of that? Like, was it
No, I started it. This was like once Enrique started having, his symptoms of Williams syndrome, the diagnosis of the heart, the diagnosis of failure to thrive. I was still in college. I was still in my last year of my studies. And it's sometimes we have to be a little bit selfish, and I needed something for myself.
Yeah.
And I've always liked to use my hands. It's just a way that, it helps, chill my mind. So I started Bawe as like a concept. I started doing jewelry and going to bazaars, and it grew out to be something that in 2020 I created, the actual business, and then pandemic happened, obviously. I had my second child, and it wasn't until, again, Chicago, that I was like, okay, I have my business, but I want to learn more about the nonprofit world, because after Chicago, it was like a switch.
Mhm.
It was, this is my life, and my life is to advocate for my son.
Mhm.
Well, my both of my sons, because, obviously, but Enrique, people don't know what Williams syndrome is, and it's complicated, but it's such a beautiful diagnosis that it
yeah.
just brings, tears to my eyes, because I heard a doctor once saying that that's a syndrome that everybody has to have a percentage of,
Mhm.
just because of how beautiful their heart. It
Right.
just the empathy, and we all need a little bit of Williams syndrome in our lives, and I just needed everybody to know my son.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's how I got a job at a nonprofit here in Miami. So I just wanted to learn more about
Oh, okay, cool.
how, yeah, I went into the nonprofit. I needed to learn more how can I fundraise? How do I fundraise? I had never done a walk before, and I really wanted to do a walk, because I'm like, okay, Miami, how do I bring the Williams Syndrome Association? How do I bring Williams syndrome to Miami? And that is by way of a walk. Like, what better way to bring people together than, spend a morning walking together, listening to some music, and just enjoying the lives of Williams syndrome. And that the nonprofit, it taught me so much. And then I had an opportunity to come work in the family business, which brings in the laser engraving aspect.
Okay.
And then after that, the business, it's my parents' business, and they just encouraged me, like, you already know how to use everything. So just use it for your own business, like for Pavea, and like, how are you going to use it? And
Cool.
That's where and this is where the collection, came out. I wanted to bring out what I love most, which is my children, and they are obsessed with everything STEM related, so science, technology, and I do a lot of projects with them, in the laser engraving. And I was like, okay, so how can I mix what I love to do with what I love to read about and live, which is Williams syndrome and laser engraving. And that's where, Pavea flourished now into a laser engraving business. And we did the ornaments. We have two ornaments that you can get. It's laser cut, I'm sorry. It's a snowflake with the heart, the Williams syndrome heart in acrylic. And then you can upgrade that to have your name. You can have your name engraved, personalized, and then a tic-tac-toe with the Williams syndrome hands. And
That's real cute. I looked at your website because I hadn't heard of you, and I was like, how have I not heard of you? We should be friends. But you have some really cute stuff on your site.
Thank you.
And I always love giving, like, for Christmas, especially, like, gifts that are like from the disability community. And I was just like thinking, these are cute for like family, and these are cute for people that are supporting our people with Williams syndrome.
Definitely. I had one incredible mom of our community. She purchased it for her IEP team.
Yes.
So, and oh my God, when she said that to me, I was like, I was telling my husband, it's like, how did I not think of that? Obviously, we're all gonna give them, the tic-tac-toe. Everybody has to have it.
Yes, it's so great. And then I heard it was our last podcast episode. You're like the first official business under the new vendor network program.
The vendor network, yes, very, very honored.
Well, we're honored. So tell us more about that. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, of course. Any business that wants to contribute to the WSA, just fill out the form. You donate the percent of the proceeds that you receive, and it's just to help with the programs and help our community more and all of the resources. It's just I don't know how long I've been talking about everything that the WSA has granted us. It's the least that I can do. It's the least that, I mean, if it were for me, I would just talk and talk and talk and talk of WSA. So this is my way of giving back to the WSA of how much they've given us.
I mean, I think it's amazing and wonderful, and like just another extension of your advocacy work, right? Like, I mean, because that's part of it. Not only do we have to make sure that our kids are successful, but we need to make sure that the resources and programs behind them can stay sound so that they do have that lifelong support. So I definitely want to encourage people. How can they find your work?
Oh, well, they can find it at the WSA under the vendor network. Just go on there, click my logo. It's called Pavea. It's actually my name. My name is Paola Beatriz. That's why it's Pavea. Yeah. Thank my husband. He's the one that thought about it. I never thought about it.
And you're on Instagram too, right?
Yes, at shop.pavea. Or you can find me for the Williams syndrome advocacy. It's at a butterfly's journey _
Yes. Yeah. No, I love this. And, one of the things that we talk about in the Williams syndrome community is just making sure that we're reaching all the communities who need support. And it sounds like you're really like leading that charge in your area. Has that been hard? Like, because there's not, like in Colorado, it just seems like it's small. We don't have very many Williams syndrome people, but we do have like a large Latin population. And there's not many of you.
I know. I mean, down here in Miami, we have, one of the biggest blessings that I received in the Chicago convention was a Hispanic mom that added me to another Hispanic chat that, there's moms from Mexico, there's moms from Colombia, there's moms from Venezuela, there's moms from, myself from here in
You're like
Miami.
international. Oh, that's cool.
It's incredible. And, there's sometimes I get a little stuck and insecure with my English. So there's no better way of, going back to your roots, and everything just comes out easier for me in Spanish. And, Hispanics, we can have like this, way of speaking that is more,
Yes, natural.
yeah. So it has come
Is this a thing that
very.
exists? Is this like is this like a private group that exists? I'm gonna connect some people to you because they would
No,
love.
of course, please. It's on WhatsApp. It's very informal. It's just,
Okay.
I'm struggling with this, or I have, I need a doctor, that I'm traveling from Argentina and I need to go to Florida. Which one do you recommend? And it's all of that. It's just, how can we help each other out? That's
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna definitely ping you with several names.
of
I'm gonna put
course.
it on my like region app right now. So, because there are several people that come to mind. I don't speak Spanish, and that's always like I wish I did, because there are so many people in our community that need support, and it's me. It's me. And I'm not a Spanish speaker. Is there anything else that you want to share with the community about Williams syndrome or about the work that you're doing? I just want to make sure we touch on anything else that you had.
Anybody that is located in Florida, please reach out. I'm really trying to do, connection events, because there's nothing like seeing Enrique with his people. Every other week he tells me, "Mommy, can we go back to see my cousins in Arizona?" And I'm like, "Oh,
Yep.
I wish I want to go back too." And even Leo, he's like, "I want to go back to Arizona." And I'm like, "Why?" "I want to go back to the hotel with my friends." And I'm like, okay, he's a 4-year-old kid and he wants to go back. So,
Yeah. No, I mean, those connections are so important. I have a younger daughter and she feels the same. She's got especially as she's gotten older, there's friends of, like people have Williams syndrome that now she's connected with as a sibling. And those are really special relationships for her to cultivate. Joel also says that if people want to connect with Paola, you can contact him at the WSA and he will connect you. So there are a lot of ways to get a hold of you, young lady.
I'm here waiting for more connections.
Yes. Oh, I love that. Oh, thank you. It was lovely to meet you.
Thank you.
Gracias, Paola.
Muchas gracias.
This has been the Starry-Eyed Podcast, presented by the Williams Syndrome Association. The show is hosted by Jennifer Keaton and Brendan Lemieux, and produced by me, Joel Listman. Theme song by Tommy Barbarella and Mariella Elm. Got a question for the show? Email us at podcast@williams-syndrome.org or message us at the Starry-Eyed Podcast page on Facebook. Video version of the podcast available on the Williams Syndrome Association channel on YouTube or on Facebook. Rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or comment on the video version, and maybe it will be featured on a future episode. Make sure to like and subscribe to the Starry-Eyed Podcast wherever you get your podcast delights.